That's the chorus, come on. Oh, not in my name, Cameron, not in my name. The things that you're doing, they fill me with shame. Your friends, they get richer, and we feel the pain. Well, not in my name, Cameron, not in my name. And what makes me pissed off is that you've sold the post office. And what's your new plan? Gonna auction your granny. And it seems you've got no shame, wasting billions on Vaseline. But the people are rising, saying, let Trident be gone. Oh, not in my name, Cameron, not in my name. The things that you're doing just fill me with shame. Your friends, they get richer, and we get the pain. Oh, not in my name, Cameron, not in my name. One more. Oh, not in my name, Cameron, not in my name. The things that you're doing just fill me with shame. And your friends, they get richer, and we get the pain. Not in my name, Cameron, not in my name. Yay! Make some noise! It's good to be back in the square.
In my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. I think I know one that might work. How about we singing this so loud that you can hear us about 40 miles down the road? How about no more Trident? No more Trident. No more Trident. No brother. No more Trident over me. Thank you very much, comrades. My name's Gavin Patterson. Thank you very much. If you want to hear some more about the Empire Bar along the Salt Market at 7 o'clock tonight, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. It is an honour for me personally to be here, but it is also an honour to bring the support of Women for Independence to the campaign against austerity. For we know the harsh reality is that austerity hits women hardest. In the last 5 years, 74% of the cuts from tax and benefit changes have taken money out of women's pockets. And 60% of any new jobs that there might be that women take are low-paid jobs. But austerity isn't just about welfare cuts and tax changes. It's also about zero-hour contracts, a minimum wage so low it is risable, cuts in employment and a tax on trade unions. Austerity is a comprehensive, systematic attack on the rights of working women, men, women and children across this country, and it is time that we stood together against that ideology. Austerity in human terms is also this. It is the desperate struggle to make ends meet. It is lying awake at night, worrying, even before the kids start their school holidays, how you're going to send them back to school with clothes. It is worrying about bills to be paid. It is worrying about the holiday that you can't take your children on. It is feeling that somehow you're alone, it's your fault, and you should be ashamed of yourself. We are here today to say you are not alone. Be not ashamed. It is not your fault. It is the fault of an ideology of a Tory government that chooses to make the rich richer and the rest of us poorer. of what you've done or I've done or anyone in this square. Austerity is a set of political choices. It doesn't land on us from heaven. It is an ideological-driven idea that says that the rich will get richer and the rest of us will pay. Austerity is about political choices, and we are told there is no alternative. We're told it's the fault of the work-shy, of the welfare scrounger, of the immigrant. We're told to turn against each other. Women take men's jobs. Young people don't try hard enough. The people who come seeking shelter to make their home in our land are somehow here to undermine and destroy our way of life. We need to say loud, clear and long, you are lying. Austerity Westminster is your fault. We will not let them turn us against each other, because there is an alternative in this rich country. It's an alternative that challenges the power of the elite, that challenges the ever-growing gap between rich and poor. For decades, this square has seen working people come together for right to fight for basic decency, against rate rises and callous landlords, against rising unemployment and poverty, and for human rights and justice here and in other countries. We stand today on their shoulders, the shoulders of the very many women and men who have argued and struggled and fought for what we now have and what the Westminster Tory government is determined to take from us. Poverty is not reality television. Poverty is the reality of hundreds of thousands of our brothers and sisters, those in work and those without, and we will stand with them. In the past 3 years, we have rediscovered hope in our country. We've rediscovered our energy, our passion, our determination to win a better way. We have rediscovered our power, and it is a greater power than those who try to abuse us and our neighbours. It is a power we must now use to fight for, argue for and end austerity, because we stand together. Thank you.
It is an absolute privilege to be able to speak from the Radical Independence campaign, especially here in George Square in Glasgow. And I'm looking out and I can see banners from Aberdeen, from Fife, from Dundee, from the Highlands, and I am so proud that we are standing here together today. Because here in this place, Scotland has a long and proud tradition of standing up for what's right. Nearly 100 years ago in this place, ordinary men and women stood face to face against tanks sent to crush them in their fight for the 40-hour working week. This is the place where we opposed the illegal war in Iraq. This is the place where we gave the keys of our city to Nelson Mandela. In this place, ordinary men and women have changed history. And so we're standing here again today to say that we will not, for 1 second, let this Tory government crush our proud tradition of resistance. The new government was sworn in only around 5 weeks ago, and so far we have only glimpsed their plans for the next 5 years. And it is 5 years of extremism. The world we've seen so far, the dark world of the bedroom tax, the welfare cap and food banks, will pale in comparison to what they have in store. Jean Freeman is absolutely right. Austerity is about political choices, and the Tories are choosing to make workers, the unemployed, the sick and the disabled pay for a crisis of the banks and the financiers in the City of London. Not one political priorities. And there can be no doubt that this government's priority is to finish Thatcher's project. She will seem like a tame leader by the time 2020 comes if we don't act now. Their priority is maintaining the privilege of the undeserving rich, the real scoundrels in our society, the Windsors in Buckingham Palace, the MPs awarding themselves a pay rise, the bosses paid poverty wages and making profits. We are here today because our priority is for the well-being of the people, the well-being of the millions and not the millionaires. Austerity is an attack on democracy as well as our living standards. In the next 5 years, the Tories will try to hollow out our trade union movement. They will try to ban our right to strike. Trade union rights are human rights, and no British government has the right to take them from us. Trade union rights are our inheritance from generations of ordinary people who risked poverty and prison to defend what is rightfully ours. And we're here today because, like those people that have gone before us, we are ready to stand up and defy the government once more for what is right. At the general election, Scotland rejected austerity at the ballot box. So we've told Westminster that the Tory cabinet have no mandate for cuts in our eyes, but it can't end there. And now we are taking our defiance to the streets because we know justice isn't going to be handed out by the rich and powerful, it's going to be seized from below by the people. And I know that sometimes when we see what they have in store for us, that the road ahead can seem really dark and difficult. But I'm confident that there is real hope, a renewed hope that we can fight this government down. Because over the last 2 years, Scotland has changed forever. We know that austerity is Project Fear on a global scale. And over the last 2 years, we've become used to countering the politics of fear. In England today, there are hundreds and thousands of people rejecting those same politics too. And all across Europe as well, people are challenging those who think they have the ability to implement austerity without resistance. In Greece, citizens are standing up to a political and economic system which has torn apart the very fabric of their society. Against the IMF, the United States, the European elites, against all global power. The people in Athens just now are refusing to lie down and submit to slavery. And if we can show just a fraction of their heroism against their own elites, against the Bullingdon Boys Club in Westminster, we can be sure that that government will not last. Because the truth is, the real truth is that no matter how much money they have, no matter how much they own and control, we have something they will never have. Because the balance of power always rests with the people when we stand together. And I'll finish on this because today marks the start of a renewed challenge against the politics of fear. We are saying today that we will not stand by and watch yet another Tory government destroy another generation. And although we've protested before, although we've demonstrated before, we know that something is different this time. Our spirit of resistance in this square, our spirit of defiance is stronger than it's ever been. I still believe that another Scotland is possible. I still believe that another world is possible, and I am absolutely confident that it will be us, the people standing here today, like we have many, many times before, who will deliver that new world. Thank you.
My God, this is overwhelming. There's so many people here. Thanks so very much for that. I'm really privileged to follow all those brilliant speakers and to be here with all of you today to talk about being united against austerity. I'm here to tell you some of the ways that disabled people have been affected by austerity, including welfare reform cuts, cuts to benefits and cuts to services, but there's much, much more. These things are overwhelming, and surviving austerity has become a major focus for GDA and our 2,500 members. Although we're very proud of our numbers, we know that there's actually over 100,000 disabled people in Glasgow, nearly 25% of the population actually, over 1 million disabled people in Scotland, over 2 million people with long-term illnesses and conditions, so we're not talking about a small group here. It's a huge number of citizens whose lives have been or are about to be blighted by austerity and the impact of a right-wing agenda launched on the most vulnerable people in the society. We recognise that many groups and other people are also affected, and we're standing here today united with you against that. The people affected or working as allies and supporters are as much a part of this fight in helping us struggle to survive. And it's not just about the money, that's bad enough. It's not just that people can't make ends meet, are facing sanctions and cuts to their very basic standards of living, or using food banks, or worse, being too proud and starving. Actually, all of this is horrific, and it's eroding the basic protections and human rights that make this a civilised society. But it's also that disabled people in Glasgow are telling us they're facing stigma and hostility, aggression, lack of empathy and support, alienation and isolation, despair and hopelessness, a lack of basic humanity and the everyday attitudes that they have to face. We've got stories from members being turned away from job centres when they go looking for help to find a job. One member told us recently that she went and she waited for an hour and a half, and by the time she got to see the employment advisor, he said to her she couldn't be that disabled if she could wait an hour and a half. We've got stories of people asking for permission to attend our courses and our programmes of support. One member was recently told she couldn't come because if she came that meant she wasn't eligible for looking for work. In actual fact, the course we were running was an SBQ in employability, so she would have very much benefited from that. People are terrified and experiencing terrible delays in relation to the changeover of disability living allowance to PIP. Lengthy delays, a lack of a fair and transparent assessment process, lack of representation, and this is all going to get worse because third sector organisations like citizens advice organisations just don't have the resources to support people in the way that they need it. Also, I'd like to tell you about the experiences of the many disabled people who do work. And there's a scheme called Access to Work. Probably most people have never heard of it, but it supports disabled people by giving them transport or equipment or a support worker to help them in work. We know that there's a target to increase the uptake of disabled people in work, and despite this, disabled people are struggling to survive the humiliating assessments and reviews. I know a number of professional disabled people who've been degraded and humiliated by the assessment processes. I myself recently went through an assessment process and I was repeatedly asked if I'd recovered and still needed support. Having been reduced to tears, I simply asked the assessor, has there been a cure for MS in the last few years that I don't know about? And despite that, I was still forced to get a letter from my GP saying that no, in the last 20 years since I'd been diagnosed with MS, there hadn't been a cure. DWP have carried out a review of their internal processes and they've concluded that their own communications are not fit for purpose for working with vulnerable groups. So it's not just disabled people saying this. Disabled people are isolated and surrounded by attitudes that have been hardened and hiding behind this right-wing agenda, this view, this fallacy and delusion that we need to balance the books and reduce the budget. It's the worry and values behind this, it's the attitude and the regression of rights that we're really concerned about. Disabled people have asked me to tell all of you that they were never starting from an even playing field. This hasn't been an easy ride before austerity for disabled people. They've always faced multiple barriers: disadvantage and discrimination, a lack of access to information, to services, to education, to transport, to the world around us. Now hate crime has risen and GDA's had to become a third-party reporting centre. Media attacks about disabled people portray negative images of either benefits, cheats and scroungers or superhumans. Disabled people are currently facing the worst ever crisis due to this perfect cut of storms to services, cuts to justice, cuts to human dignity and participation in their own lives. And all of this has a detrimental effect on health and well-being and being able to cope. Simply put, disabled people are second-class citizens, suffering stress, anxiety, and at times people describe feeling suicidal as their personal resilience has been worn down. A couple of weeks ago was Participation Week in Scotland, and we were looking at people and communities and how they need and what they need to participate. Because the thing is, and I've told many people this, that the disabled people frequently don't get to participate in their own life, even in their own life. Austerity has crushed confidence, self-esteem and self-worth, and it's made sure that people have less choices, less control over their lives. Disabled people are voiceless and powerless and lacking in self-determination, lacking in participation and absolutely in the ability to make a contribution, and a contribution that they can make and want to make. They ultimately lack the basic building blocks of citizenship. Surviving austerity is something GDA and other disabled people's organisations have had to develop programmes and supports in response to. Sometimes it's about information and practical advice, sometimes it's about signposting to the agencies that can help with the welfare benefits. But also it's about providing access and support so that people can meet with each other, building connections, support and facilitating learning and peer support. All of this help builds resilience and the ability for people to have choices and control, to participate and to make their contribution. Austerity itself is not inevitable, other choices can be made. Inequality and lack of human rights are not inevitable. Working to raise awareness of all of this is a great starting point today, and that's what today is about for us, because most people fully don't understand what's going on, and we believe that they wouldn't condone it if they did. Austerity means disabled people being rated according to their economic worth, and we've said many times that we don't live in an economy, we live in a society. And what kind of society do we want to live in? We want to live in a society where we take care of those most in need, those most vulnerable experiencing poverty and disadvantage. I'll finish off by telling you what disabled people have told us, what they need to survive austerity. First, they do need a decent income, and that might or might not include benefits or a living wage. Practical support and information are also needed to deal with welfare reform, and disabled people also need understanding and compassion for other citizens when they're unmasked as being neither superhuman nor scrounger, the two extremes of the media. Ordinary disabled people need the same as everybody else. They need basic human dignity, to be treated with respect and have a sense of choice and control over their lives. For disabled people, this might mean some additional support, and we all recognise that, but we all need support. We all need a scaffolding to shore us up. So we're really proud and privileged to stand here today because we need you now more than ever. Thank you.
It's great working with Phil. Brothers and sisters, we are here in a city and we live in a nation where we pride ourselves on diversity and a warm welcome that 47,078 people cast their precious vote for UKIP in Scotland on the 7th of May 2015. That cannot be ignored. There has been progress in anti-sectarian work in schools, football, and throughout civic society, but hate crimes continue to be recorded in their hundreds. Join us in Hope Not Hate to fight against all racism, all fascism, and all far-right activities that threaten our work and all our work to build a just Scotland with decent work and dignified lives. Hope Not Hate opposes austerity and its divisive impact. We know that we have more in common with all workers than with a government in Westminster that took power with less than 24% of the UK vote and less than 1 in 10 votes in Scotland. They've taken that vote as a mandate to slash another £12 billion from the public purse and pursue their policies to divide us. Hope Not Hate says, not in our name. We also want you to join us in sending solidarity and condolences to the people of Charleston, South Carolina, after the hate crime earlier this week killed 9 black women and men and children in cold blood. One of the founders of that same church in central Charleston, Denmark, Vesey, tried to organize a slave revolt in 1822. He was caught, he was executed amongst 35 others, and white landowners had his church burned in revenge. From 1834 through 1865, African American churches were outlawed. Parishioners worshipped underground until after the Civil War. Civil rights activist Coretta Scott King, Martin Luther King's widow, led a crowd of 1,500 demonstrators to that same church in an April 1969 protest during the powerful U.S. Civil Rights Movement. The demonstrators faced National Guardsmen with fixed bayonets. 2 months ago, a white police officer shot and killed an unarmed black man in neighboring Charleston, the north side, sparking major protests and highlighting racial tensions in the area. Everyone counts or nobody counts. Hope Not Hate will continue to campaign alongside you to end hate crimes and the right-wing rhetoric that blames the victims. An injury to one is an injury to all. Our struggle continues. Something else happened this week. Martin Schulz, the current president of the European Parliament, held talks with David Cameron. But what he said on record was Britain's debate on Europe is driven by hateful lies, national resentment and scapegoating of Romanian and Bulgarian immigrants. He went on to say, there are attempts by people in Europe and also in this country, meaning the UK, to create new barriers between countries, stirring a feeling of panic over so-called benefit tourists wanting to plunder the social systems of the host countries. Outright lies are being told. These are the President of the European Parliament, direct quote. What makes me sad and angry in all this debate is the undertone of national resentment. Hatred is spread. People are used as scapegoats. Well, Greater Glasgow, Hope Not Hate, and groups in Dumfries, Ayrshire, Edinburgh join you today to stand up against austerity, to stop the vitriolic blaming of everyone except those who created the crisis and continue to profiteer from it. We ask you to join us because a just Scotland is possible if we unite to fight against all inequality, all racism, all far-right efforts to split us as a class, as a people, and as a community wanting social justice. Work with us to raise our voices loudly and clearly for hope, not for hate. We are the many.
Not everyone agrees with me. Apparently, some people think that we need them to make us feel secure. So what's actually threatening the people of Scotland? What threat to Scotland outweighs the danger of accident, malicious attack or war, which could lead to a nuclear explosion centred on a spot only 25 miles from Glasgow? It seems to me that the greatest threats to the people of Scotland currently are hunger, homelessness, poverty. And the Scots also face dangers such as social inequality and risks to our environment. How will nuclear weapons protect us from these? How does Trident feed us? How does it house us, educate or care for us? Supposing we lived in a Scotland without nuclear weapons, not only would you feel safe from nearby nuclear explosions, we would also have more money to spend on alleviating hunger, reducing homelessness, helping out with poverty, and we'd have some left over for education and health. The government is proposing to renew Trident at the cost of £100 billion. That's 1 followed by 14 zeros. Just think about that. A pound sign, a 1 and 14 zeros. Can't even imagine that kind of money. But that's the kind of money that could treat 3.3 million cancer patients or pay health and social care costs for 116,000 dementia patients every year for 50 years, or pay the wages of 77,000 nurses for 50 years. At Scottish CND, we're working very hard to persuade the current government that Trident renewal is a mistake. Security isn't about nuclear weapons in the Clyde. Security is about food, jobs and housing, and that's what Scotland's people deserve. Thank you.